afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the Nashville MTA board meeting to order at this time. With that being said, if I could have approval of the January 23rd minutes, that would be great. There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have minutes. Next on our agenda are public comments. And I have several public comments, and I think I have maybe some who have not been here before. Just want to remind you that you have 3 minutes. I will give you notification when you have 1 minute remaining. And I'll just call your name from here. The first one I have is C. Dunn. I don't have a first name.
Carmen.
Is it Carmen?
Yes,
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Welcome.
thank you. I came here, I didn't know all this was gonna transpire, but I actually came about the 25. I don't like how it runs. I live in the hood, right around the corner from where the buses come up at. I can go to the 6. That don't bother me because I'm a pretty healthy woman. But a lot of my seniors in there can't get around there like I can. So my thing is change it back a little bit more than it was. Since it's a great city and trying to be a great city, consider the ones who are less, don't have the money, jump in the car, whatever. But even at that, I want the 50 to go past NES like they supposed to been going to turn it back and do so they can go pay their light bill. I like lights, they need lights, y'all need lights. This is a wonderful city. I'm not from here, I'm from Indiana. Daddy was from here. But it needs to consider the poor and stop. When poor say something, the Bible even says the poor is not heard. You're going to hear me because I'm poor. So even at that, I'm a cleaning woman. I like getting around. I'm pretty healthy, thank God for that. But I won't consider the poor and stop talking it and do it. I'm through. I got to go.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Thank you for coming and sharing your opinion today. Mr. O'Connor.
Okay. Well, good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon.
Okay, just a few points to mention that, one, as I kept getting past meetings to mention about this, but it came to my attention regarding the Route 72 up at Nippers Corner, where I was told that the Walmart there wanted the 72 to not come through the premises there anymore. Why, we don't know, but there are a few people that seem to have a difficult time trying to understand that one. Making it a little bit more difficult for some people to be able to catch the 72 at the I think it's the Starbucks location where there was a stop there. And so now the 72 has to continue straight up to Hickory Boulevard and come up around, down through that way. So it's making things a little more difficult. So I'd like to find out, what the situation is, why they're not allowing the 72 to come through there anymore. And as usual, also again, the stop at the what do you call it, up there on Dollar General Market on the 52A route still needs to be relocated to behind the Walgreens. It's going to make things easier for people, and I'm sure I'm probably beat Sharon to the punch on this one, that people will have to step off the bus into a ditch. And kind of makes things difficult for people to be able to walk around there. And then some people are going to have to pay another fee to go to the next stop. I've run into that situation. Also, again, bus hours and customer service need to match the hours and be extended so that we can get more people. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sheila Hanson. It's good to have you back.
Hello. I'll be going back to work soon, so I don't know when I'll be back again. I recently read that for the access ride, when a person in the new system, if a person calls in, they charge the bank, they charge the fare when they call in. I use a state card. When I go back to work, I'm going to be using Access Ride, and I've got a state card, the bus card, the Easy Rider or Fast Pass, whatever it's called. If I were to call and schedule rides for going to work, I wouldn't want them to charge my account because I would be using the state card. So why not charge when the person gets on the bus? That way you can choose which pass to use, because I would still be using it for my personal use when not going to and from work sometimes. So I've got a concern about that. I've also have just seen in the book that we will have to apply, those using Access Ride and lower fare buses will have to fill in an application. Those of us who already have the discount card, that we showed to show the bus driver that we are eligible, mine expires in April. When I renew it, will I still have to do that application, later on as well, or will I already be in the system for 2 years with the card? So that's just a question I'm wondering about. I reiterate what Peter says about the non-ADA accessible Dollar General stop. There's a stop right ahead of it that is accessible, and I have always wondered why they didn't use that one. I've mentioned this before, so this is broken record, but just saying. And I'm going to reiterate again, please ask the bus drivers when they take their breaks not to stand right outside the bus door and smoke. The smoke gets on the bus. I'm allergic to it, so there should be like a little required distance that they have to stand, away from the door. Yeah.
You have 1 minute left.
So that's it. So I haven't had a chance to say this before, so Happy New Year, because the first 2 weeks of this year I was in the hospital.
Well, glad to see you back and healthy again.
Yeah, getting there.
And Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Gerald Pillow. Is that a W or is that an N at the end? I'm sorry. Pillow, is that right? Okay. Gerald. And it's Pillow, P-I-L-L-O-W.
O-W. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Okay. My concern is Nolensville. I'm in Dickinson Pike and Hillhurst, that part of town. I've lived in that neighborhood for about 30 years, and my concern is one of you all stops. It has a sign on the pole, but I've been told that we couldn't get a canopy or a waste can at that stop because it didn't have a canopy over it. Well, I found, now that was 2 years ago, so I stopped complaining to the city about that for 2 years until I, down on the other end of Dickinson Pike, I see there's a bench, no canopy, and a waste can. Now, it's gotten to be real bad from Hillhurst Apartments to Hillhurst Avenue. And it's just paper and clutter where there's no trash can for the customers to put their trash. And it's causing property damage where there's no bench, they're sitting on the fence and breaking it down. So when I go home, I see broken down fences and clutter. The person that owns that property just so happened he hired someone to clean it up starting yesterday. They was out there today. But if there's no trash can there for people to put their trash when they get on the bus, they just throw it on the ground. You have shoe boxes, KFC, Captain D's, diapers, all of that stuff. And that's what I have to look at when I go home. And on Hillhurst, it got so bad right there that I pay to have it cleaned up. During the summer, I pay $80 a month for somebody to come through there, clean it up where it's not over the sidewalks. So I'm asking, would y'all put a trash can at that stop? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Philo, I appreciate your coming in and sharing. Mr. Knight.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
First thing I want to start off with is I reported an issue on 2720 about the Route 76 bus 879. There was an issue with the ADA wheelchair ramp. This route is a connector route that connects 3 towers. It's a complete run all the way through. I've talked to staff multiple times for the last few years about this particular route before it was changed and now that it's been changed. There are too many wheelchairs for this one bus. There's only 2 wheelchair securements. What is the problem and protocol when the wheelchair ramp doesn't work? Motorized. The driver just pulls it out. Well, what happens when you pull the ramp out but it doesn't level up with the floor and then the driver and the customer is having to push a wheelchair into a bus because there's an unlevel floor? So I sent emails to staff at that moment because the driver told me that he reported it to operations. And I asked him what was their response. He said he got no answer. So I told him I was going to email right while I was on his bus. I did. I got no response. So I told him I'm going to see what happens when I come back later on that night. I come back about maybe 8:45 on his last trip. The bus is still on there with the same problem. So I want to make this clear. If we're going to sit here and keep talking about how we respect ADA customers, and we have a bus that's on a route with multiple customers in wheelchairs, and they're having to be pushed on, what is going to happen when your driver or a customer gets hurt? I want it addressed. I want this to stop happening. I want your drivers to feel like they're getting buses that work properly. It makes no sense that from 3 in the afternoon I reported it, and I come back at 8:45 at night and that bus was still on the route. I don't want to hear any more excuses about it. That was an operations issue. I even reached out to operations. The second thing that I want to address is this fare card thing. Now, I just listened to this because I came to the meeting and I pressed the staff about the whole idea. Instead of you all actually literally listening to your customer, you just cut routes on your customer. Then you went up on the fare on your customer. Now you're asking them to pay $3 for the card. Just allow a 60-day period to not charge for the card and stop using that whack, retarded paper card with that fare media because it doesn't work properly. What's the point of actually going forward to use this new technology if you're going to continue to keep using the old one? That's pretty much all I have to say, other than you all need to get operations underhand when the drivers are reaching out and they're being told that there's a problem on routes and they're not correcting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us today. Mr. Thomas.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Thomas.
On 210 of this month, the 2B815 lineup, the bus driver, I guess he's a new driver, did not go on the regular train detour. Instead, he went over to 8th Avenue, to 12th Avenue, back to 8th Avenue, and then through some other streets. He finally wound up back onto Nolensville Road. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, he went around Robin Hood's barn through BFE. He got me lost the way he went, so I don't know what route he went on. It took longer than the regular train route detour that he should have gone on. The other couple of issues I have is that several of these marquees I've noticed out here in the bus bays are not working properly. They're just showing the day that of the week and then the time of day they're not showing any schedules. So I'm like, I'm looking up like, when's the next bus coming? I don't see anything. And I still see people sitting around a lot of these bus bays just smoking their cigarettes, and it's clearly marked behind them, no smoking. They're not paying attention, they're sitting there smoking their cigarettes. And there's no security, no supervisors come around saying, hey, you're not supposed to be smoking your cigarettes. Even the bus driver not even saying anything to them. They're not supposed to be smoking. And that's all I got. Other than that, the bus driver's on the bus driver this past couple weeks, he's been doing pretty good. I like him, the 815 lineup.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, I appreciate you sharing with us today. Mr. Bull?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bull.
As y'all know, I'm a frequent rider. I live at 370 Wallace Road, District 30. Got 4 items. Been to most, if not all, of the listening sessions. Without exception, the mass transit is at the top of the $20 how you gonna spend it list, either at the top of the list or way at the top of the list. You pick the session. And that makes a statement for some services that have been cut back 10%. And people are noticing that, and they're saying, no, we need to do better. The Hillsborough and Holo 37208 transit center stuff, I think that's golden. I think that's neat. That's something that we need. The further we get away from the hub system, the better. The new fare process, I'm glad y'all are being very methodical about working into that. I really also note that those of us who've got some of the mag strip cards on hand will be allowed to pile them on the cards when it gets in line. And I noticed we're being given dummy cards, and that's down my road. Okay. And I'll have to note, I'm impressed the way drivers can handle some very unusual and very demanding situations en route on the bus, keeping the buses running. That's slick. That shows some professionalism. Y'all do a real good job, in my opinion, of allowing the bus drivers to exercise their judgment on site right then. And last, that better bus system. Yeah, we need to have that funded sooner than later. And that's all I've got to say. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Bull, thanks for coming in. I do not have any other public comment forms. If anybody else wants to make a public comment, you're more than welcome to come up. Anybody else wanting to make a public comment? Is there anybody else that wants to make a public comment? All right, that closes the public comment section for our agenda today. Thank you all very much for coming. As I always say, your comments matter, and you help us to improve what we do every day, so thank you very much. I am going to turn this over to Mr. Searcy for Operations and Finance Committee reports.
All right. Well, we have a couple of action items. The first being the Hillsborough Pike Transit Center. We heard our presentation during committee this morning, and staff is requesting that we grant authorization to the CEO to enter into a cooperating agreement with MNPS, better known as Public School System, for the Hillsborough Transit Center, which in significant part will be on school property. I recommend that this board grant that authorization.
Okay, there is a recommendation from the committee. Is there any further discussion, Mr. Brown? I don't have any other. I would just make the comment that I think that this is great for us to have the agreement, and also it aligns us with the FTA better, particularly as it relates to funding as we go into the future. So, thank you. So, being a recommendation, no second required. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agreement.
Fantastic. Well, we've gotten 1,000. Let's not strike out at this late stage. So let's strike forward with the Clarksville Pike lease agreement. We had significant discussion regarding it. It appears that all the players are at their appointed stations and ready to go forward. What staff has asked us to do on this day is to authorize the CEO to enter into this phase of the process, working toward a lease agreement regarding the use and subsequent full development of a transit center on this property in 37208.
So, Walter, I'd like to just set to just one amendment to this, and that is that the board chair also be authorized to sign because of the type of real estate deal it is. The charter probably would require that, so if I could add that in.
You've heard the amendment. I certainly have no objection, and with the proposed amendment, I now submit the recommendation to the board for its approval.
So we'll be in a committee recommendation, not requiring a second. Is there any further discussion? I'm excited about this, and the amendment works well. So with that being said, all those in favor? Okay, that's all in favor. Aye, we're good. So the motion carries for the Clarksville Pike lease agreement.
That concludes the business of the Operations and Finance Committee, except reiterating, be sure to consult the current projects that you always want to maintain some connection with.
Awesome, thank you very much. Mr. Barner, you're up next for the nice committee.
We had a presentation by Ms. Schaefer regarding the fair policy and Title VI adoption agreement. And where we already have the fair system, making some new policy changes to that, basically for certain demonstrated need is keeping the ability to operate with the card, what we're doing now, essentially, and not phase that out until we're able to successfully do so without a burden on so that's the recommendation of the committee. We approve that.
That being the recommendation of the committee, not requiring a second, is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries, and you know, this is gonna be great. So again, it's always constant staying in touch with our customers to make certain that we are indeed meeting the needs of our ridership in meaningful ways. So I appreciate that. So you have your fair policy and title agreement. I don't have much of my chair's report, but I do want to thank Ed for once again presenting the report of where we stand and on our budget and our finance and doing the annual risk assessment. I think that always encourages us to be better and also for us to see where our challenges are and where our many opportunities to constantly improve the work we do. So thank you for presenting that today. Also, I like that we're incorporating more and more the Better Bus and sort of how we now sort of show our routes and using that philosophy as we go forward. I'm also really excited about the two centers. I'm excited for a lot of reasons. Hillsborough is small and sometimes you get caught in Green Hills, and I think that's going to really help. But the other center, the Clarksville Pike lease, is really exciting because all of this came out of emotion, and again, it's part of us really responding to the needs of the community that we exist in and that we are a part of. And I will say that I'm very appreciative of Mr. Wooten's vision for being able to partner with us to be able to make certain that this become a part of the community and being a good community member, to make certain that those who are on transit are able to have a safe place and also a better place for all of our routes to connect. So I'm pretty excited to see what that's gonna look like as we go forward. And I think our community is going to truly be the beneficiary of it, and will be the beneficiary as well, as it allows our drivers and our routes to better access our streets. So I'm just really excited about where we are with that. And I'm also excited that as we look at the work that we do, we continue to look at it from a lens of equity. And I see that running more and more through everything that we do, and how you apply equity to come to the decisions that we come to. And so that thoughtfulness is great. Again, great credit to all of you to do the work that you do here, and I appreciate it. One other thing I want to say that I noticed today when I came in on the 5th floor and came down, the colors of the doors on the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, you know, all of the colors of the doors are pretty awesome. And really just about how clean the establishment is. And I think that makes it more inviting, it makes more people want to come in, and it makes you feel very comfortable and safe in the environment. So more than just the colors of the door, I just noticed just really an improvement on the building and the premises, and I think that everybody appreciates that, so well done for that. So other than that, I think I am going to turn this over to Steve, because he has a very short report, at least that's what he said. I don't know, we'll see, y'all, right? Should ask our visitors, should we put you on the 3 minute? No, just kidding.
When we dry run the board presentations, I always put them on the clock, so Ed, it's fair for you to start the clock. Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight is going to be the last scheduled public listening session for the Mayor's Transportation Plan, and we'll be there. It'll be a home game for me in East Nashville. But I publicly want to thank, we've had about 10 or 12 WeGo staff who have really done yeoman's work in staffing those sessions, answering a lot of questions, working closely with Mayor's staff, Public Works, Planning, the others who have been there. So my thanks to all of you for chewing up quite a number of your evenings. And hopefully it will result in a better plan and something we can actually advance to improve service. Last week, Ed and I got to meet with representatives of the Mayor's Office, Metro Budget Finance, Metro IT, on our budget request for the upcoming year. It was a good exchange of information, a lot of good questions from folks in the office. So we're cautiously optimistic, but it's going to be a tough budget year for Metro, so we will keep an eye out. We did get good news in the mayor's release of his request to council for the capital spending plan. As you'll recall, we haven't really had an allocation for the last couple of years, and the well was starting to run dry. We needed $4.6 million to fully match our available federal, state, and our available state and federal funds, and he is recommending the $4.6 million allocation. So it's maybe not up to what we had seen, 4, 5, 6 years ago, but it certainly will allow us to at least fully leverage those funds. Got to present at the Transit Citizens Leadership Academy last night, sponsored by the Transit Alliance of Middle Tennessee. And other than one particularly unruly class member, Mr. Searcy is a member of the class this year. It was a good session. And I actually got to hang around for the next session, which was conducted by Vanderbilt Professor Daniel Work on autonomous vehicles. And Daniel is really an international expert in this field. And I was relieved to hear him say that they ain't going to replace mass transit with no autonomous cars. So for those of you who've heard otherwise, the experts kind of go with us. Staff continues to advance our FTA mandated system safety plan. It's a particular focus for Rita, and I am pleased to announce that not a long time, but a relatively recent staff addition for us is going to be taking more of a role in that. Nick Oldham, Nick, raise your hand, who is one of our super effective trainers, is going to be taking on a much larger role in system safety, and working with Earl and Bobby in taking us to the next level on that front. In my role in the executive committee of the Tennessee Public Transportation Association, I participated in a briefing by the association of the Senate Transportation Committee, and that was very beneficial and typically represents really all 95 counties in Tennessee. Tennessee is one of the very few states that has public transportation services in every single county of the state. So I guess being elected to the executive committee, I'm forced to make those promotional announcements for TIPDA. A couple of folks have left, but I want to thank the folks from Music City Riders United who reinstituted, when Julie Tim was here, she made a point of reaching out and having regular monthly meetings with MCRU. When Julie left, it kind of fell into abeyance, so we started those back up. Miriam and Felix and I met with MCRU leadership earlier this week, and I think it'll be a great conduit for a back and forth on what's going on. So appreciate their work. It was alluded to earlier, yesterday we hosted FTA Region 4 in our regular quarterly meeting. A lot of the focus was on the 2 transit center projects, but also on our ongoing Murfreesboro Road Transit Signal Priority Project. Other than a little bit of cleanup work with NES, the only nagging thing left is a couple software glitches in the signal software. In particular, how the transit priority phases are implemented in the signal network. We did testing this week and it still failed a couple of those tests, so the software vendor is back working on those. But at least all of the queue jumps are in full working order, and we're getting very good feedback from our bus operators on how that's helping them to improve the effectiveness and the operations of that particular route.
One more time, Steve. How does that actually work, the queue jump process?
I told you he was unruly. You're going to ask me a technical question. So the queue jumps at 5 particular intersections are basically approaching the stop, the bus pulls into its own lane. And I'll use Donaldson Pike inbound as an example. At the Donaldson Pike intersection with Murfreesboro Pike, there is a section of lane that as the traffic queues up at that intersection at that red light, the bus essentially pulls into its own lane, goes up to the stops, picks up and discharges passengers, moves up a little bit more, and then is detected by the system. And on the next phase of the light, it has its own green to leapfrog traffic. So any traffic that's queued up there, we essentially get a jump on them by getting an early signal before the through traffic green. Folks are starting to learn. We've had great cooperation from Public Works, Metro Nashville Police, because there are enforcement issues with these types of things. And folks are starting to learn. I had personally observed in the early stages of the queue jump, cars trying to take advantage. I will warn anyone out there. If you try to get in a queue jump lane in your car, you will wait for a very, very, very long time, because that signal will not change for you. And we watch folks try to slide out, watch traffic, 3 cycles of the light pass through, and then they just sort of try to slide back in. So with that public,
Next bus.
correct. So do not try to draft on a bus going through. That's illegal, and that particular precinct has been very helpful in enforcement. So they are working pretty well. You can't count that on my time, Ed. That was a Walter question. Earlier this week, Monica sent out an email. We're working on trying to schedule our periodic half-day or so board workshop. So if you would help share your availability in the next couple months with Monica, we'll get that set up. And then finally, and it's not as brief as I hoped it would be, but I did take a couple items off. Updating you on the RTA items of interest. This past month, I participated in a briefing with the group Forward Sumner, which is a business group up in Sumner County. Commissioner Bright from TDOT provided an update. They're doing an expansion study of the Vietnam Vets Boulevard project, SR 386. And among the considerations that TDOT is looking at is our dedicated bus lane / HOV lane, enforced HOV lanes, hot lanes, to try to address some of those issues. And there's terrific interest from Sumner County in those priority measures. I reported earlier, we've acquired 8 new used rail cars for use in the STAR. We have those cars on site at the yard in Lebanon. They're going through installation of safety equipment. They're going through the branding stuff to become a WeGo STAR. And we expect to have them, that we're doing dynamic testing and crew training we expect to have them in service in the next couple of months. And then finally, as you did a couple months ago, the RTA board did approve a capital improvement plan this month. The focused improvements, other than our state of good repair, are continued upgrades to the STAR. Hopefully be able to generate a couple more trips, and then also a large focus on creating new park and ride opportunities in the outlying counties. So unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
All right, any questions for Steve? You sure? One? I need another one? You don't want to be that person, like, you really have to ask another question? And you want to get out of school?
I saw the look on Gail's face when you asked that question.
I just tease. Well,
I know where to get it.
I did feel to say one thing. I know Rita's worked extremely hard with making certain that we were able to get the 2 centers done, and I just wanted to make certain that thank you for the good work that you've done, and working tirelessly with so many different people. And I'm sorry I failed to mention that earlier, but it's always good to have an encore, right? So it's good to say the best. But thank you very much for all that good work. I appreciate it very much. With that being said, any other business? Oh, no? Then I think that we should adjourn. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
So I think it's Jan, the one that holds, because, you know,